Welcome back to the UK Thrashers radio show. We're back in our normal slot. We're back with our normal themes. This week we interview Holosade, but before that, let's have some more North East thrash. This is Novichok.
Tries to get blow, push my buttons by below, get into the beats within, in this state of vile sin, mental regression, psychotic eviction, hatred injection, unleashed aggression. Oh. This abuse is seated inside out. You'll think it's time held up, thought you couldn't do it. You kept tempting us. Violent death was breaking free. Gonna grab you by the throat. Vengeance through violence. Humanity known. Vengeance rising. Vengeance rising. Snatch your throat, blow to the head. When we're done, wish you were dead. Back to the skull, blood rush through. Brain, psychotic rage. Black and mud, bottom slide. Moral chains have shattered. Try testing our patience. Say the only thing that matters. Rage rides are gonna blow. Push my buttons by the load. Get it down the beats within. In this state of foul sin. Mental regression, psychotic infection, hatred injection, unleashed aggression.
Vengeance Rising by Novichok. Let's keep it going. This is Killonova and Straight to Hell.
Bow to your broken altars, offer up the sacrifice.
Okay, next up, before we kick into the interview with the band, this is from their 1989 album Hell House. This is Holosade and Madame Guillotine. This week in the studio, we're joined by North East legendary Thrashers Holosade. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
Hello, Neil. Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourselves, what you do in the band, and name drop the other members of the band?
Well, you can do yourself, Phil.
Right, so I'm Phil Desert. That's my real name, really. I'm the vocalist. And to my left, I've got Paul Trotter, guitarist, lead guitarist. And we have Adam Adamside, he's the other guitarist. On bass, we have Hugh Holding. And at the moment, we are drummerless. So we are still looking for a drummer.
Bloody drummers. They're the worst. They're usually in 5 bands and there still doesn't seem to be enough of them around.
Yeah. True.
There's a couple of irons in the fire there. We just need to get together and start playing something again.
So let's go right back to the very beginning, because I kind of said at the start you're kind of thrash legends because you were about back in the day, you know, when we were all a lot younger and a bit slimmer and could stand up in the next morning after a few pints. When did you guys kind of originally form? What was your origin story?
So it was way back about 85, believe it or not. We got like a band together. It wasn't even, I mean, thrash wasn't really coming out like to a full extent. So we weren't really a thrash band. We were a covers band. We were doing all sorts of stuff. And it was only till Jack joined the band, Jack Hammer, Simon Jones, that we started to go towards that vein, you know. We were always a heavy metal band, don't get me wrong, but we just couldn't get like where we wanted to be, you know. So we're doing like covers of, I don't know, Ozzy Osbourne and even like early Motley Crue, the faster stuff, you know. So it was, the direction was trying to go somewhere and get some notice, you know, like covers. And we were doing our own stuff as well, yeah. So 1985, that's a long time, isn't it?
I think it is, isn't it?
Forever ago. Mm-hmm.
So kind of that point, you know, that was, as you say, right at the kind of start of thrash proper making it over, you know, you were making, you know, you're transforming from the speed metal bands, and then you were getting the punker influences, like, you know, obviously early Onslaught were much more, you know, dischargey punk style. And when did that kind of shift, and you think actually the thrash thing is kind of new and fresh, and that's where we're kind of going to go?
So about 87.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not as late as that, really, you know. 86, 87. The first year, so we just didn't have a clue. We wanted to start big, like metal, you know. So, yeah, I'm guessing about then. Yeah, it was. But see, Jack joined about 87. Yeah, and we just changed direction. I mean, we didn't even Michael was only 15, so he didn't even know who bands were. He was like, I need to find out who these bands are. And when you heard Dave Lombardo and Slade, it's like, I want to play like him, you know. He just changed his perception and wanted to play that double kick, you know.
So was it all those influences at that time that kind of all hit you, I guess, just at the right time? As you say, it was a sweet spot as all this was really starting to be noticed in the UK, and, you know, bands were starting to, you know, make it onto Donington, and the bands were getting bigger and bigger at that point, and you were just there at the right age at the right time to pick in on it.
I think a few people said we jumped on the bandwagon, but that was a load of shite, because we didn't. We were already playing metal. We're like faster Judas Priest, faster Iron Maiden, you know, which Metallica were really in respect. We weren't like a DRI band or that fast band. That's, you know, suicidal tendencies. We weren't that type of stuff. Even Nuclear Assault, I don't know what was going on. But like we weren't that that stuff. But we tried to be a bit melodic, you know. But,
yeah.
Well, that's where we wanted to go. That's where I wanted to go. That was my direction.
Mm.
You've always kept a bit of that melody in there, even on the new album. You know, although it's, you know, you've always. We're going to come on to How House and things in a minute, but you've always been a thrash band, but you've not been that all-out noise level of thrash band. You've always had some nice harmonies and some melody in there to make it, you know, not just a brutal riffing machine. There's some brutal riffs in there, but it's more than that. It's a bit more intelligent than that, and it kind of always has been a little bit, really, I guess.
I'm guessing so, yeah. Like you said, it was like, yeah, I think few people did say we're trying to jump on the bandwagon, but it wasn't that at all. It was just the direction, you know.
Yeah.
I've had a few conversations with my friend who's into thrash, really into it, and we've always said, what do you really think thrash is? Do you think it's like your Testament, Megadeth, pit bar bands like that? And I always say, I think it's more the really, really hardcore stuff to me is thrash. It's like punk. You've got punk bands who was like pop punk and real thrash. They're really, you know.
It's like it's got that specific sound and tone, isn't it, with the guitars and I mean, like early Creator, Testament, that kind of thing. That's your typical thrash for me.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, being like mid-teens, this is going back a long time, obviously. You know, the bands I was in was like Anthrax, Slayer, that kind of thing. But I loved all the softer melody stuff, your Iron Maidens, that kind of thing. So, you know, mixing that together for me was just absolutely perfect. And I was listening to like a lot of early Malmsteen at the time when he was a phenomenal guitarist. I mean, he still is, but I prefer the Easy 80s stuff. And then for me, it was I was at a rock disco, I think, and it was Dave Brass who used to do one of the rock nights. He said, "Oh, there's a band called Holosade," and I was like, "Oh yeah." He says, "Well, they've actually just lost Jack, so they were looking for a guitarist." So I got hold of the album. Learned a few songs, went along for the audition in Shildon. It was the old church, wasn't it, Phil?
That's right, the old church.
And then that was it. We went from there.
I was going to say, because you kind of came in after Hell House was out, didn't you? You kind of came, right. you kind of slotted in between the two albums there.
Yeah, Hell House was Jack. And then when he moved on, I took over from Jack.
Okay. So the Hell House thing, obviously that was, what was it, 88, 89 Hell House came out?
89, yeah.
89. So kind of that was in that, it was kind of probably 88, 89 were the real crescendos of that initial wave of thrash. And, 80 and probably 90 as well. And Clash of the Titans came over. And so you were kind of on the wave of something really big at that point, and kind of kept on the back of that. Well, who did you support back in those days? Because you kind of picked up on quite a few, local as well as kind of countrywide gigs, didn't you?
Yeah, we did Acid Rain, Slammer, did one with Venom, with Tony Boland, Demolition Man Venom. Reanimator was a gig with them. It was like, there wasn't too many actually. Mm-hmm. And like I say, that was in between Jack and Paul. There was more so with Paul. We did the Slammer ones and
because you were always kind of the kind of those kind of the UK Big Four, for want of a better term. And I know it's a bit wanky, but there was you guys were kind of that the support to those, and I think you'd probably include Reanimator in there, the Hull lads, and then Purgatory from Bristol, and who have just come back as well as Trapped in Purgatory, and so there was a whole host of, like there is now really, I guess, there's a whole host of the upper echelon bands who are probably at least making a couple of quid from doing this, and then there's the whole host of the next level bands like who are kind of hoping that's their next foot of the rung, if it makes any difference these days, and I think it makes less and less all the time. Yeah. So Paul, kind of as you came in, these guys were already established, and they got a relatively successful album out. I remember it coming out and it being well received, and it's got the real estate on the back of my battle jacket these days. So it's kind of but you kind of, so you would come into a relatively successful organisation, I guess, Paul.
Yeah, I've been in a few kind of local bands that just did local gigs, very unknown stuff. Again, just playing really covers. There was I think it was like a death metal band at the time, it was more deathy black metal. Covers where we play Megadeth, that sort of stuff. But once I got the opportunity of this, I jumped at it because it was like, a good couple of levels up from where I was at the time. So it was really good. You know, there was gigs that, you know, got us going from London, Edinburgh, Glasgow, the whole lot at the time. It was fantastic. It's not very comfortable in the back of the transit van, lying on the top of 3 4x12s, but.
Mate, that was when you were young. You imagine you're going to be doing that again now. You're like, oh, me back.
I know. I wouldn't fit now.
So kind of off the back of that, obviously that you had a bit of a change in lineup, which is, you know, always a little bit of a turn. But there was quite a big gap between the kind of first and second album, wasn't there? There was a good. What was 92? Was it 92?
The Circle album.
Yeah.
Yeah, 94 that come out.
94. Yeah. So even I was going to ask you, why did it take so long for that? But then you got another 20 odd. You got another 30-year gap in between. So what was it? You know, obviously the scene changed quite a bit in that 89 to 94. That's things changed a lot in the scenery. You know, Nirvana came and death metal got huge, and thrash kind of disappeared up its own backside a little bit, really.
It did, didn't it? Yeah, so it was such a shame. I think that's where there's a downfall of the band. Like initially, when it was like the gigs were drying up, and nobody seemed to be taking any interest. It was like quite disappointing at the time. But yeah, that Circle of Sound Screams was never supposed to come out. It was supposed to only be for our prosperity. It was like demo type. It wasn't even like properly recorded. But like Dive Bomb Records decided to bring it out. I can't remember. Something like a few years ago, maybe 2015 or something. When the Hell House album come out, Dive Bomb, an American company, took it on. Just said, yeah, I'll release it. And didn't like sign anything or whatever. It was bizarre. And they said, well, you've got this other stuff. Well, I'll do that as well. I went, well, if you want, it's not going to cost me anything. Do it, you know? Yeah. So I didn't really want that to come out, tell you the truth, because like I said, it was more personal. It was stuff we sort of recorded, and it's not very good, I don't think.
I don't think you were very happy with the sound, were you?
No, it was rushed, you know?
It's also musically a bit different as well. You know, you would definitely, I think that melody started coming even a bit more on there. You know, if you play the two back to back, there's a you know, it's not chalk and cheese, but there's definitely you can start hearing some more influences, and possibly some of your earlier influences start to sneak back in again. And
it's bizarre.
Yeah,
I know we had to try and change, like I think there's one song called "I Am the One," which was like an attempt to do like not grunge, but attempt to go like more mainstream, which was a mistake again. Well, loads of bands did that, didn't they?
I was gonna say you're not alone, are you? You know, if you go through that kind of 90, 91, 92, 93, you've got funk tracks. You know, you didn't slop out a bit of a pop bass and kind of bust out
awful stuff.
There's a lot of things in people's back catalogues over those few years that are they probably don't like to bring up too often.
Yeah, I've been wearing gold shells with this.
So when did you wrap up the band for the first time? When was the kind of day you kind of went, actually, guys, this is, you know, we're busting our balls for nothing here, and it's time to let it go?
I'm guessing about 92, Paul.
It probably will have been. It was definitely early 90s. Yeah.
There was really nothing happening, was there?
Yeah.
Nothing happening at all. Really quite depressing.
So, and was that the trigger? It wasn't a band domestic or a kind of, the old artistic differences that everyone loves. It was a proper, we're just getting nowhere and working our balls off, and no one else gives a fuck. So why are we bothering?
And if anything did come along, we'd try and get something back together, you know. But it's just making music at the end of the day. But there was just nothing at all.
Yeah.
Everything we were doing seemed to be just like you're getting despondent. I think is probably the best word to use. Where you try and getting somewhere, and nothing was coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, that's it.
Like you say, despondent and frustration set in. You know,
let's just go back to doing our boring jobs and whatever. You know, if it happens again, it happens again. You know, but that's it. Yeah, it's a shame, but truth.
But sorry. I was just going to say, on the music front, you didn't stop completely, did you? Because obviously, did you have some time off, or, you know, what? But you kind of both went. Did you both go off to different projects, or before you got together again, or have you been away and done?
Well, there was a couple of revamps with Holosade, which Phil did, but I didn't really do anything in the music scene other than just home recording by myself, kind of bedroom stuff for it, kind of own pleasure really. So it was Phil that there was like a couple of revivals, wasn't there?
We did what? We did say one in '94. Did a few gigs. It didn't really work out, and then some bizarre reason, Jack come back into the band and said, "Do you want to play Hammerfest? I've got those Scotland Hammerfest." It's like, what? And it was Clash of the Thrash or something it was called, but it was like, we headlined that. I can't remember now. London band, new thrash band. Gone, completely gone. There was a few other bands on. Virus were on. Yeah, made a good impression.
Yeah, it was obviously a great day. Either that or there was too much beer flowing.
It was bizarre because we hadn't done anything. We hadn't played any gigs for years, for a few years. And Jack brings up, right, we've got to go down to Wales. Like, we're second on the bill. It's like, what? No, we thought about maybe second up from the start, but to be second from the top of it was like, fucking hell, man. But it went down off. The nerves are kicking in there, but there's like just a bit of pressure.
Yeah.
So we got Mac back in for that as well. So there's Jack, Mac, myself, Neil Vickers, and an electric kid called Gareth South. Not Gareth Southgate, but Kelly.
Gareth Southgate.
Go!
It'd have been good, wouldn't it? Yeah, that was his side project.
Hung up his boots for a while and just.
I can't remember his second name. I'm sure it was something Gate. Anyway, Northgate. There you go.
So what year was that? That
2011. That one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's still quite a big gap from the like 94 and that.
Yeah.
And what about the other project? I'm never sure how to pronounce it. Armatura. Armature. So
yeah, just like armor.
Right. So when did that kind of kick things off again?
That was, I think, 2017. I think that was, Phil. We were at a local rock disco, and we just happened to bump into each other because we'd sort of like fallen out of touch and hadn't seen each other for a good few years. And then we just got talking, and obviously that sort of flame was still there for the love of music. So, I says, well, I've been writing quite a lot of stuff. Phil says, well, I've got like an abundance of lyrics. So we said, well, let's just try sticking something down and see what happens. And it just went from there. We started getting a few tracks together, started sounding all right, and then got a session drummer in to do them. And then that was it, Armatura.
So what was the, it's probably a little bit more towards kind of a modern new wave of British heavy metal-y sort of slant. There's a bit of your thrash influences in there, but it's probably slightly, as you say, probably from your original influences a little bit. Is that was that the reason you didn't reuse the Holosade name? Do you think this is actually a separate project and I don't want to blur the lines, or have you just never really considered being a Holosade band?
We did talk about using the Holosade name, but we thought fresh start, new music. Let's see where we can get with that. And we tried for a good few years, and we got some good feedback. There was a few labels interested in taking it on. Ultimately went with Mighty, and then in the end it was you're kind of starting from the bottom again, and you get a few decent gigs. There's a few people there, not that many, literally a few, and then it just sort of went. I mean, it was Phil got in touch with Mark Palmer, wasn't it? Nuclear Blast, and he says, look, yeah, the music's great. He says, but why the hell are you not using the Holosade name? Just use it. So that was
yours to use, yeah.
So, hence moving back to Holosade.
So, kind of obviously that you released Rise as a single. Is that 2 years ago now? It's got to be close to that, hasn't it?
I think it was.
You know what I mean?
Late 2019 or something like that.
So probably quite a good time, really, wasn't it? Because like the Reanimator lads had just done, like, they did an EP.
Yeah.
H and the Acid Rain Boys had done the reboot, and that was so actually kind of Coke was bringing Virus back again, and all these things were, so it kind of when that came out, that was like it kind of seemed to have hit the sweet spot of is another of these bands from that people as old as me remember fondly coming back again. And but it's taken you obviously a bit of time to get from there to getting the album out the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the biggest reason for that was this COVID. We had a lot of the stuff written a long time ago. There's actually a new video out tomorrow. Is it, Phil?
Friday tomorrow.
It's Thursday tomorrow, or is it Friday they're releasing it? There's a single from the album coming out. It's called Something Follows. So it's that'll be out Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
And then the full album, the 28th.
Isn't?
Yeah, so it was, we'd had a lot of the stuff written. We were playing it, and it just, because of COVID, we were stuck. And that was the main reason. We lost our drummer as well. I mean, we wanted to push on with the music, get the album done, recorded, so it was done, ready, out there, and because of the COVID, we couldn't get into the studio, so we used Hugo Ribeiro, who's now with Moonspell, and he played drums on the Armatura album, so we got him in because he's got his own studio. He's well versed with the type of music we play, and that's where he appears on it.
Cool. So that decision, when you said, fuck it, let's use Holosade again, did you so I'm guessing some of the music was already written not with Holosade name in mind. Did you rethink some of it and go, actually we need to riff that up a little bit more, or was it with the boundaries not quite as kind of as rigid as that?
It wasn't that rigid. We thought, well, we don't want to be too like the original Holosade. We've all moved on. We've got a few different musical tastes, and we just try to put something a little more modern in there. And yes, before we started using the Holosade name, some of the stuff was written, so it was kind of applicable to Armatura or Holosade. It's just we've decided to move forward with the Holosade name.
Yeah.
And consequently, we're still playing some of the old stuff, the old Holosade stuff from Hell House. Then when we start again, there'll be majority of the new stuff, and we'll chuck the odd Armatura one in as well.
So of the current lineup, obviously, you two are both from, although not from the right at the start, Paul, but you're both from the kind of the original lineup. Obviously, you're drummerless. What about the rest of the guys? Are they who's kind of rejoined from early days, and who's kind of brand new?
Well, we've got Adam Ironside. He's been with us since the very start of Armatura. So he's like 2017, or was it 2017, early 18, something around there. He's been with us since then. So we've kind of written a lot of tracks between us for the new album. We've got Hugh, he left Blitzkrieg, so he's with us. And that's it. And it was Adam Sayers who was the drummer, and he basically played all of our live stuff. But he's decided to move on, which I can understand.
Sure.
But it's the decision we took.
So kind of going back to that recording and writing, but you obviously got a lot of that done. You were kind of ready to go pre-COVID. Had you recorded anything, or have you kind of been darting in and out of the studio as with like restrictions have lifted and you've gone back in to do another bit? And
yeah, well, we hadn't recorded anything up at that point. We'd only had it written, and we were kind of sharing riffs and, how does this sound? Sending it backwards and forwards for Phil to put some vocals on. So that's really as far as got. And then it was only during lockdown that we did the proper recording, but it's a bit easier for the instruments because we just record. I just record here. Adam just recorded at his house.
Okay.
Hugh at his drums we got done in a studio. And then when we could, we got together and did the vocals with Phil.
Okay, so you kind of
wait until
you use technology like a lot of the younger bands do now. Is actually you're plugged into your Kemper and you're taking your files and someone else is doing the mix and
absolutely just here. That's Kemper. Everything was done on the Kemper. For me anyway.
So on the back of that, you guys are now hopefully, as especially I think this weekend the restrictions get lifted a bit more. Is the next step to obviously get back, and you guys need to actually rehearse all that as a full band and start building up your I guess you got to learn some of the old stuff again as well. You've been practicing. Trying to remember riffs and lyrics.
That's basically where we're at. Just trying to relearn some of the stuff ourselves and move forward with that. Get together, start rehearsing it, and then get ourselves ready for live work again.
So Phil, back in the day, you always your on stage persona with the kind of the Phantom of the Opera mask and things like that. Is that still a feature on the live show?
It is. Yeah, we've done did 4 gigs pre-COVID.
Holosade.
The Holosade, yeah. I got a different mask. I thought I'll try it. I wasn't really. I was a bit shana, and it felt all right, And I thought, well, yeah, I can become a different person on stage. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you get more. I get more confidence that way. I don't know why, but. Yeah, and I think, well, if it works, it works. People maybe laughed at the time, back in '88, but I was the first before Slipknot,
Yeah.
So,
I was going to ask what made you decide to do it in the first place? Because you're right, it was especially for a thrash band. We'd kind of gone away from all this theatrics and everything like that, and everyone had gone to jeans and a pair of high-tech slammers and a cut-off t-shirt, and that was all you needed, sort of thing.
Well, Gary, the original guitarist at Holosade, he didn't want that. He said, "Fuck it, we're not going out wearing scruffy trousers and scruffy t-shirts." He said, "We're going to be like, we want to look like Iron Maiden, So we want to be sort of like not glam but glitzy. That makes sense."
Striped spandex.
Well, everybody.
Not now, mate.
Zebra skin.
That's why they do that picture up slave with spandex on. So, but no, it was just something that I wore it for a song called Madame Guillotine. That was the original one. I used to just stick it on, And then somebody said, "Why don't you just wear it all the time?" And I went, "Oh, well, yeah, all right, you want to." So that's how it come around. It was just like a stage prop, like where Bruce used to do his bird mask thing where they used to wear that. I thought I'd put this thing on for Madame Guillotine when they used to do the drum roll.
And then it kind of became your suit of armor that you can kind of you can flip over the top and turn into this on-stage madman.
Yeah, when we first kicked off, the whole band wore face paint page. We shot some pictures somewhere, ridiculous pictures. But it was that was the thing. We thought, well, there's only Kiss did it. There was only, I think, King Diamond had done it. And we thought, well, if we're British, somebody might say, well, you're different, So it was always, I don't know, it had to be like something else to get noticed, That was another thing.
Yeah.
Somebody had to say, well, even if it was like, that's them, but at least you're talking about you,
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it's that band again.
I think other than yourselves and probably Sabbath, who were a little bit different because they Martin's flowery shirts, not flowery but like big belly. Other than that, everyone else was very, very similar, wasn't it? You could have mixed people around the bands and not known who was who. Exactly. But as you say, it made at least you as the front man at that time. Which one's Holosade? That's a bloody nutter with the mask on. It's kind of, and it did give you that kind of, that unique identifier, I guess, really.
And like I say, people did snigger, I think, at the time, but like, you know, people sniggered like Marvel comics, you know, people, you know, but how much money they make, you know, it's like thousands and thousands of pounds, dollars, you know.
Yeah.
For a superhero, people that wear masks that do the wrestling, they think they do it for free. No, they do it because they make lots of money, you know. It's like, you know, at the time I thought, nah, I'll try it, you know, and it stuck. This one's a resin mask, it's more solid. The other one was like a fabric.
Right.
So it's just a little, but it's got more definition. It's more evil looking, I think.
Cool. So you touched on it before. How many gigs have you played kind of under the Holosade name since you kind of made that decision that you were gonna turn it all back on again?
It's half a dozen or so.
Something like that,
yeah.
So were they local, or you managed to get a bit further afield?
There was a few further afield ones. We did a tour with the Polish band. What are they called, Phil? Notny Kochenek or something. Yeah. So we did like Newcastle Riverside with them. Then where's the second place? Aberdeen. Yeah, Aberdeen, and then down to Glasgow. So that was fun.
A nice little run, yeah.
Yeah. Where we played the O2. We did a headliner at the O2 in Newcastle, so that was good as well. And then a few kind of smaller ones as well. So it was, a few.
And what was the reception like? You know, obviously there's a whole generation of young thrashers that, you know, don't remember you from the first time round. Yeah. You know, but you know, did I guess that there was a benefit that, as you said, Dive Bomb had re-released. They'd done, you know, so you could finally pick things up on CD that, you know, you'd never been able to get before. You know, Hell House finally came out on CD, because I think it was only on vinyl and cassette the first time round. You know, have you found the reception quite good? You know, have you had a load of kind of people who are definitely not around the young time? You know, you've seen the young moshers in the crowd. You're like, fucking hell, I looked like that 30 years ago.
There was a few, wasn't there, Paul? They were getting into it as well, you know. So it's nice to see, you know.
Yeah, Nice to see. It's like there was both ends of the spectrum. It was like, oh no, I remember your first time around. So those ones that are probably
all the old fuckers at the back. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and then a few of the younger ones, you know, who like can really appreciate and maybe obviously they're not aware of that kind of music, you know. So that was good fun. Good.
Are you kind of conscious about the latest generation of thrashers and what they get up to, and kind of do you worry about writing thrash that kind of fits in with the modern scene?
I'm just writing the music I like to hear, I like to listen to, and I like to play. And then, you know, when Phil drops his vocals on, it's like, yeah, we'll do that. No, not do that. And the finished product is, if we like it, then that's what we go with, you know. If other people like it, excellent. If not, then that's perfectly fine, you know. It's because especially I think this album, we were a bit worried it's not a lot like Holosade, or people who remember Holosade will say it's nothing like that. So that's what we were a little worried about. But at the end of the day, it's just where we are. It's the music we've written and we enjoy playing. So
yeah, I think, you know, as someone who kind of, as you know, as I loves the first album, I can still hear you guys in it. You know, it's not like you've turned into, you know, Faith No More or something. You know, it's not, you know, but it's more mature. But God, if you hadn't matured over 35 years, we'd really be in the shit. It's kind of, and I mean mature musically, not mentally, because I'm sure that hasn't happened in the slightest. Yeah. You know, so. Kind of, Phil, you still write all the lyrics. There's no, you know, are you the one man lyric machine?
I guess so. I mean, I've never said you can't write any songs. I mean, Jack wrote a couple. His contribution was the Egyptian one. I don't know my mind goes right. Jack wrote a few, but not many. I think they're like, you know, I took the helm of that. That's
Eastern Promise. That one.
Eastern Promise. No. That's Arabic.
No idea.
Anyway, I don't do it anymore, so that's why I don't really tend to listen to stuff.
So where do you continue to, because the latest album's kind of is it quite diverse from a subject matter? Are you kind of quite, it's not a concept album, you're not telling, there's no story that threads through it or anything like that. They are kind of relatively standalone songs. Are you just kind of still taking influence from, the world around you, really?
A lot of it's horror stuff. I still I'm still like a horror fan. I still like watching horror films. I like try and twist the songs round to. It's a bit like Steve Harris, when he writes a song about 7 Cavalry or whatever it was, and he changes in the Charge the Light Brigade for that type of thing. And I try to base it on that type of ideas,
It tends to be your more horror stuff, isn't it? Not all, but
not all of it. No, I mean, there's on this album there's stuff like there's stuff like Dystopian World.
Money to Burn.
That's all about corruption in the world. And so, Chaos Control is about somebody losing control of the mind and being taken over. The Weight of the World's being trying to do your best, and then all of a sudden you're being brought down all the time, no matter what you do. Loads of people are in that position where the boss just brings you down and thinks for you, that's it, and you try and pick yourself up again. So that's what that song's about. Mm. But yeah, there's a little bit. Again, it wasn't on purpose. I thought, I'm going to write a song about this, I'm going to write a song about that. But just what comes into my head, and I think, well, if I hear the tune like Rise, when I heard the diddle 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 diddle, it just gave me an Egyptian vibe. I don't know why. So I thought I'll write a song about, an Egyptian, even though the Hellos one, which I can't remember, Eternal Life.
Oh, yeah.
Eternal Life, that's an Egyptian song based on Tutankhamun. Jack wrote that. He wrote the lyrics. So I didn't write so Rise is my Eternal Life type of thing. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you got to this point that you made the decision that you were going to use the Holosade name again. You had material for the album. How did you go about kind of shopping that to labels and stuff? Obviously, you've ended up on Dissonance / Cherry Red because obviously there's a change in everything that's going on over there at the minute. Yeah. But was that just a case of going out with a demo and this is our heritage and this going out with the band's CV really and selling yourselves, or did were you lucky enough to have connections kind of with those guys?
It was more the other way around with Dissonance, wasn't it? Because they contacted Phil. I mean, Phil will fill you in better. They contacted Phil about the rights of Hell House. And Phil was like, well, we got a new album coming out written, and they were like, oh, all right then. So it kind of went from there.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, it didn't really, didn't trail it around. Like I said, I spoke to Mark Palmer, rung him up at Nuclear Blast and said, can you remember me? And he went, yeah, go on. Can I just have a bit of your time? And I said, how do bands get on these days? Do you have to have management? Do you have to have a record company? Do you have to have the best video? And he that's what he said about the amateur stroke. He said, call yourself Holosade, I said, it doesn't matter somebody will remember that name. And I went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then
because I guess the people who were around at that time as fans are also now sort of our age and in those positions of head of PR and head of marketing and all those. So a 45-year-old, 50-year-old will probably remember you from that era sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, Mark used to work for Roadrunners. You probably know that anyway. He was but at the time, I think he was like an A&R guy. He wasn't.
I was going to say he's one of the A&R runners, really, wasn't he? He was kind of just
and it was Case Vessels was the main guy. Then the band I was in previous to Holosade was called Dark Art. We were signed up with Roadrunner, and I kind of spoke to Mark a couple of times on the phone. It was a bit like Matty, who's doing the distance thing. He was like, "Oh, this is a message for this. Can you do that? Yeah, blah blah blah." So that's how I knew Mark Palmer. Which is good contact. And then, like I say, what Paul said there, Steve Beattie, it's funny enough, we were going to sign to them originally. Other Records? Does that ring a bell?
I think so.
It was Plastic Head, but it was his own label. And the stupid thing was, because we were based in London and we were so naive, we took the power station one because of New York, because it was closer. It was the same money. They said, I think it was about £3,000 or something. I said, you have £3,000 to record your album. And we turned up to Steve Beattie and said, sorry, Steve, we're going to stick with this York company. And I think they had talked
because it's closer on the bus.
Yeah,
it was close.
It's easier lugging the cabs down.
Yeah.
So they had a band called Tokyo Blade, which was like, they were like a bit like Iron Maiden type band as well. And I know they had Little Angels, but they were actually managing Acid Rain as well. So that's why that was that connection. And I said to Steve, I said, sometimes I just wish we'd signed to you. He said, well, you can. He said, if you want, I'll bring an album out. I was like, oh, well, thanks very much. So that's how we ended up with Dissidents, because that was his baby, Steve Beattie's baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously he'd had quite a bit of success with, Age of Entitlement. So, obviously H and the guys got on with him as well. So I guess he was on a bit of a wave of, for want of a better term, and I don't mean this in a derogatory, but revivalist thrash bands are actually quite a big pull at the moment. And, I guess that was one of their own put out quite successful. So I guess that was a real positive spin on the back of it. And did you come up to Scarborough to see
I did, yeah.
Acid Rain? Because I was crewing for H on that night, and I very vaguely remember saying hello, and then he goes, "You know who that was, don't you?" And I didn't recognise you without your mask on.
I don't really go out with it on these days.
So you kind of touched on it a minute ago. The way bands do stuff these days is very different, and I guess really there was an opportunity. Did you really need a label? Could you have just self-released? But I guess there's a whole load of stuff there that is quite. I know you can end up getting tied, and you end up becoming everything to everybody. You're trying to get shit on Spotify, and you're trying to deal with production companies, and was the label like let's just get on someone who knows how to do this properly rather than trying to fudge this through ourselves.
Mm-hmm. That's what we initially thought.
Yeah, we did discuss just doing a self-release, but it's everything that goes with it. All the reviews, trying to organise it and manage it yourself. It was just everybody's got full-time jobs. So it was Dissonance came along. They offered to do it all for nothing. It hasn't cost us anything. They printed the CDs. Doing the PR stuff, so it was a bit of a no-brainer in the end, really. Yeah,
and as you say, I think if you're 18 and you've got nothing else apart from making your band big, you can spend all day on social media and spam every group on Facebook with a link to your latest song and all that sort of stuff. But when you got real lives to deal with and bills to pay, unfortunately, no one's got time for that.
And we're absolutely not getting any younger. So it's a bit, so although we enjoy what we're playing and that's why we're playing, it's a bit sort of last chance saloon, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Every day I get up, I feel like that. So, so kind of touching back on the new album, who did your art for you? Because it's quite a striking visual on the cover.
A guy called Hans Chizard, Disart in Slovenia, I believe. Slovakia. I'll have to have a look. It's just like, he has some good stuff, and it was like we actually paid for it. We didn't get Dissidents, didn't pay for that. We paid for that. But then again, we get the choice. You're not like given something. Hell House, we didn't have a choice. And you said, "Oh, that's the album cover." It was like, "What? Oh, okay." You like it, you better.
It's what you've got.
Yeah. But it was all right. I mean, it's not, it's a little bit corny, it's a little bit like cartoony, but Hell House that was it. Yeah. And the same thing with the Dark Art one. Somebody come along and said, "That's your album cover." It's shit. Oh, that's it. You get that's what you're given. You know, it's like that's so yeah. So
I think your Hell House tied in quite nicely though, because it had that B movie horror vibe, and then it was like one of those non-Marvel or DC, but those other comics that were made by these slightly shadier companies that weren't very good at colouring in between the lines. It had that sort of, so it had that whole kind of subculture B movie vibe to it, and it kind of at the time I think it fitted quite well, really.
Yeah, like you said, that we didn't have a choice, so that was it. It was that was it or nothing, So this guy, he had the art, and he wanted so much money for it, and then we just got in touch with the guys and said, "What do you think?" And they said yes. So I said, "Oh well, let's do it." But he did everything as well. He did all the digital stuff and all that. He was very good at that.
Has he done all your did he do all your layout and everything from that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't have to then take that and go and get a graphic designer to do all that sort of.
No, he did everything. Yeah.
So Dissidents did a little bit for themselves. They must have got Photoshop and stuck a picture of the band on. We didn't. That wasn't originally there. They said, "Oh, we'll do that," and we were like, whatever, because obviously, just a 4-piece on that. But it's okay. It's okay.
So what about, you said you got a new single coming out on Friday? Is that accompanying? That's a video as well. There's an accompanying video for that. Who did your video work? Is that music video? Is that lyric video, or is that?
It's a story with the words, So
So it's a lyric video. Yeah.
It's not just lyrics, but blasting in with like flashing colours behind it. So I've got a bit of a storyboard with it as well, and it's based on the film It Follows. Which is coming out on the Horror Channel, I think, in a couple of weeks. It's getting I think it's Suspense Week or something it's called. And it's like slightly based on that, where somebody's being followed all the time, but you're not sure that somebody behind them. And it's like, if you get it, they can get it. But yeah. And I just give them the lyrics, and they come up with the video. And I think it's quite cool. I mean,
I love the video. It's great.
And then it's like,
I think it's on a par with the Rise video.
He didn't want to go back to Andy. I was going to go back to Andy Pilkington again, but he was busy at the time.
He's the busiest man in the universe, isn't he? Andy's got so many bands, and he has such a high turnover, but he's always got someone knocking at his door, and some big boys as well. I think he's on 100% Flotsam and Jetsam for the next couple of weeks.
Blood in the Water album. Yeah, it's good. I like that cover. That's a good cover. That
going forward, obviously, album will come out. Hopefully, you're releasing it just the right time, as everyone's got double vaccinated, and we can start we can have man hugs from Monday and all that sort of thing. Are you? What's the plans going forward? Are you got some gigs lined up, or are you kind of some irons in the fire?
There's nothing really. We're just going to start rehearsing, get a set together. Get up to maybe an hour's worth of material, live material together, and take it from there. It's hopefully there's some half decent ones come about.
Possibly get like some support stuff if anything comes up. That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
If something comes up, you might be able to jump on a slot.
What about
else?
What's the preferred? Are you, obviously you kind of touched on, real jobs and things like that. Is it kind of the odd day, long weekends and maybe festival appearances? Is that your kind of preferred, I guess you don't want to go on the road and use your 2 weeks annual leave up and leave the family at home and go travelling around the country you might want to, but the wife might not be so keen on the
idea. Pretty much that as the norm, like a few gigs a month going forward if we can. But if there was a tour come along for, say, a week, 5 to 7 days, we could manage that.
It was worthwhile, definitely. Yeah. It's worthwhile. If it was something that was like, in the back of beyond, and we knew nobody was going to turn out, then it's pointless doing it. But if it's for the right thing. Again, like my family was saying, he said like Onslaught and that hadn't played Japan and they hadn't played the States, but like just recently, well, not recently, but since they got back together type of thing, filled themselves up. They've been all over the places that you can't. And Zentrix was another band you say. Yeah. So they all of a sudden they've got like can you play here? Can you play there? Oh shit, yeah, we've got to. I don't suppose you've got to, but it's within their interest to, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think those bands, especially Onslaught, I think Onslaught have got, in some ways, they get a bigger crowd overseas than they do on home turf at times. You know, I know they're one of the probably, you know, that they're probably our best thrash export. You know, they've done, you know, they still, you know, they get on the big stages, on the big festivals, and drag some people in. But I guess, you know, H and the guys will be touring soon, and you know, you could borrow Mark. He could do a double shift for you. That would be, you know, if he takes Syntheta with him as well, he could do three on the trot. He's a young lad. He could cope something like that.
You can be the opener, main support, and
that seems reasonable. I think you should pitch that as a suggestion. Think of the money you'd save.
Yeah, a few decent support slots wouldn't go amiss for sure.
Yeah, and I guess obviously the bands tour in the UK that, you know, hopefully that will start again. But I guess you know, bands from Europe is going to be difficult in the next, until we get all the, you know, we've been so kind of tied up with post-COVID that we haven't really worried what post-Brexit means at the minute to touring bands.
That's gone out the window at the moment, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Just trying to get back to some level of normality, and you know, European travel would be good. I mean, we even considered that, you know, back with Armatura, because the scene was so much better in Europe. Even Mighty tried to get us over there, but you know, a few decent gigs over here, and then if something turns up decent in Europe, excellent.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, definitely. So on that note, do you want to do yourselves a quick pimp out, a final, you know, album release date, name, and you can pronounce it properly, because I get me Anastasis mixed up, and kind of, and also where we can find you guys on social media and give you a follow and all that sort of garbage.
Yes, thank you. So it'll be Holosade, new album released 28th of May, called Anastasis. It's a 10-track album, and it's got a bonus track on which features Jackhammer Simon. So you can head over to Facebook, just pop in Holosade, you'll find it, and the website is also holosade.com. Oh, sorry, holosade.co.uk, I believe.
A website? Ooh.
Yeah.
On that note, guys, thanks for your time. We really enjoyed the album. The reviewers have my reviewers just sent it in, and I've had it on in the car, blasting to work and back every day. Really hope it goes well. Hope you guys pick up those support slots, and I can get to see you sometime again in the near future. It's only been about a 34-year gap in between seeing you last time, so nothing to worry about. What's the 34 years in between, friends?
That's excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Cheers, guys.
That was Holosade, and this is the first single from that new album. This is Weight of the World. Okay, that draws us towards the end of the show. We're going to play you out with another Northeast band. This is our mates in Scar by Truth and the track they donated to Mosh in the Roof on. This is Sociomedia. See you next time.